It's a battle between two teams that lost in round one, desperately looking for their first points of season 2009. It's the first home game for the Canberra Raiders, while the Roosters will be wanting to make last weekend's capitulation to the Rabbitohs a distant memory. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Canberra Stadium on a beautiful autumn afternoon in the nation's capital, and quite a healthy crowd to see the Canberra Raiders take on the Sydney Roosters in what promises to be an entertaining game and a critical one, particularly for the Roosters so early in the season. Let's have a look at the team cards for this afternoon, because there are a few changes. First of all, the Sydney Roosters, and the big news around Canberra today is that Willie Mason is back for the Roosters. He will start in jumper number 20, so big news for them. Lapini Paya goes back to the interchange bench. Ben Jones will also come onto the bench. Martin Kennedy and Jake Friend, the two players omitted, and Brad Fittler is the coach for the Sydney Roosters, who were pretty ordinary last week against South Sydney. Well, a bit of an understatement. The Canberra Raiders, well, they took on the West Tigers in an entertaining game and suffered a loss, and will be keen to resurrect their season today with a win at home in their first game for 2009. As we look at their team card, and some changes there as well. Phil Graham is out. Jared Croker, the 18-year-old cousin of legend here at Canberra, Jason Croker, makes his first grade debut today. Alan Tongue is the skipper. Tom Leroy-Lars and Troy Thompson come onto the interchange bench. No Stuart Flanagan and Nigel Plum. The coach, of course, is David Furner. Joining me in commentary this afternoon, Wayne Pearson. Wayne, it is a big game for both teams, but I think more so for the Roosters because of their loss and the way they lost last week.
Yeah, you can say that all teams have one poor performance through the course of the year, and last year, from the Roosters' point of view, I'm sure their fans will hope that they got that out of the way well and truly early on in the season. But where they struggled last week was in their enthusiasm. They came out of the blocks very poorly, and South just blew them off the paddock early on. Their forwards need to step up against a Raiders outfit that is very enthusiastic week in, week out, who struggles to win the contest in that play the ball area almost on every encounter, and that's going to test the enthusiasm and I suppose the ability to wrestle in tight there in those rucks today.
Well, big news for the Roosters with Willie Mason returning. There's Craig Fitzgibbon, Anthony Minichiello. His running game, returning of kicks, will be critical this afternoon for the Roosters. And the kicking game of the halves, Braithen Astor and Mitchell Pearce, will be very important also for a Sydney Roosters side which was embarrassed by their performance last week against the Roosters.
Well, to give you an idea of how much they were blown off the paddock by South last week, in general play, the Roosters only came up with 5 kicks in general play, and that's probably the lowest I can ever recall. A team 5 kicks in general play in the whole game. So they were just on the back foot for most of the match. So they've really got to step up and contest in that play the ball area.
A stat that doesn't read well for the Roosters as they make their way into the field, led out by captain Braithen Astor. Their average loss in their last 5 away losses has been 25. The average winning margin for the Raiders at home is 33. And Anthony Minichiello, what a player he is, and coming back from a very serious back injury.
Yes, he's a real competitor. In the trials, he was outstanding for the Roosters. Last week didn't get many opportunities because they were on the back foot for most of the game, but he chimes in around the ruck, will work well off Anasta and also Pearce.
Here come the Canberra Raiders, their first game at home for the year, led out by the inspirational captain Alan Tongue. And the Raiders Army, the Green Machine, make their way out onto the ground. They play an entertaining brand of football. If you live in Canberra and you love your footy, you'd be here every week the way they play the game now, the Canberra Raiders. And 2 fullbacks who are just potent attacking weapons against each other today.
Well, David Milne was an absolute revelation last year. Played prior to that, been floating around on the wing for a few years, but last year they threw him into fullback as a bit of a stopgap and absolutely blew the opposition apart and averaged 140 metres a game last year, and he'll be looking to continue that form throughout 2009.
Well, it was a sad off-season for the Canberra Raiders with the passing of the father of the Canberra Raiders, Les McIntyre OAM, who was fundamental in the establishment of this wonderful club. And we all pay our respects here this afternoon, the first home game for the Canberra Raiders, with a minute's silence for Les McIntyre OAM.
Behind the scenes, it's a British away, 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 Thank you very much.
Well, all in readiness now at Canberra Stadium. There's round 2 Telstra Premiership clash between the Raiders and the Roosters. The return of Willie Mason for the Roosters. Our referees this afternoon, Jared Maxwell and Jared Sutton. Jared in just his 2nd game in the top grade. Jared Maxwell signals time on and we're underway. NRL Sunday, round 2. The Raiders in their lime green defending the northern end of Canberra Stadium, and David Milne has the first touch and hit up of the afternoon and makes it out 15 out from his own line. Well, the Roosters clearly offside Mark O'Mealy. He was almost going to be first receiver there for the Canberra Raiders.
Well, last week they struggled to get their share of possession off the back of a lot of drop ball. This week, penalties at home. You know that the referees are going to tend to lean towards the team that is least disciplined in terms of, or against that team, and the Roosters haven't started off well.
Some foot on it next time.
Here's Miller taking it forward. That just goes into acting half for the Canberra Raiders. They're 30-odd metres out from the line. Campese to Milne, stepping back on the inside. Mitchell Pearce with a high tackle. Nothing much in it. Up over the shoulder.
Yeah, but back-to-back penalties, they just can't afford this. They need to start off well, the Roosters, to show each other that they're going to be competitive, that to boost their confidence.
Well, it gives the Raiders 15 metres to work with for the first points of the afternoon. Let's see what the Roosters have got defensively as Josh Miller takes it forward. 10 metres out from the line. Just in line with the left-hand uprights. The Roosters couldn't afford possibly to concede so early. Tongue, 5 metres out. O'Mealy in there doing some defensive work. So too Fitzgibbon. Nate Miles as well. Buttress finding Shillington. Now Campese. Long post over the top, and Purtell has dropped the ball with the line wide open.
There was a definite try gone begging there. The pass was probably a looping pass that probably fell a little bit low, a bit hard to take. Oh, no, he should have taken that. He should have taken that. And that would have been a mighty, mighty blow against the Roosters so early on in this encounter. Note that Purtell is actually playing out on the wing. Looks as though the rookie Croker has moved into the centres.
So the Roosters with their first touch of the football this afternoon. They're struggling to get out of their own end. Here's Miles at Herbert. Monaghan there to make the tackle as well. Alderson's in there at acting half. Being James, the number 9. Here's O'Mealy. Good tackle. Miller knocked him down. Over the top was Bronson Harrison. Tongue was there as well. Fitzgibbon picks up some easy metres as the Raiders were caught on their heels. Last tackle here for the Roosters, just shy of the halfway line. Pearce will kick it about 6 metres short of that mark. It's going to find open space, but it's a nice bounce here for Milne. He dummies there to Carney. Decides to take them on himself. At least the Roosters are positive there. They got their kick on this occasion after you mentioned, Wayne, they only had 5 last week.
Yeah, there was an enthusiastic running game there by the forwards, Fitzgibbons in particular, looking to play the ball quick. They really need to follow it up with a sustained defensive effort. They've got to get off the line quick. They weren't getting off their line last week. They've started off a lot better here today.
They go wide again. Herbert coming on the ankle. Harrison pops the ball back to Shillington. He's now tackled 10 metres short of the halfway line. Campese. Oh, taken high there. And Astor, the man that's penalised. Willie Mason was in there as well. That's 3 penalties in 3 minutes.
Well, when you want to be more aggressive and play more enthusiastically, it's easy to just lose your focus somewhat. They're just going a little bit high, trying to hit a little bit harder, but going a little bit too high in defence.
Buttress as they go wide to Shillington to get them in the centre of the field here, the Raiders, to give them options left and right. Campese stands on the left, Herbert stands on the right, Buttress stands at acting half. He then passes to Miller down the middle of the ruck, and a shoulder charge there from Sedamata Sarr, and that Miller could pick up a few more metres. Now Herbert, here's Milne coming from behind. Good tackle there from Anasta. Herbert hit again after he's passed the ball. That's happened twice in the last 2 sets. Now here's Tongue. Miller straight and forward. O'Malley's there to meet him with Fitzgibbon. They're only 5 metres away from the line, though, here the Canberra Raiders. Buttress at acting half. Decoy run from Tongue. Campese now finds the youngster Croker, stepping right on his feet and has tackled a couple of metres away from the goal line. Last tackle, Campese points to the air. Monaghan waits out on this right wing. Sarr slow to his feet. It's off a green machine head and knocked on there by Milne, and the Roosters have come up with possession.
I know it's taken a little bit of fuel out of the Roosters' tanks so early on in this game to do back-to-back sets on their line, but it'll give them a lot of confidence in each other to know that they've been able to keep the Raiders out, because they looked very, very threatening indeed, and they get a relieving penalty.
Very much a relieving penalty, isn't it? 5 minutes gone. 5 minutes gone. The penalty count 3-1. Now been marched 10 metres here for some back chat. And I bet you that was just a mumble under the breath, forgetting that there was a second referee standing right next to him.
But as a coach from the team that gets the penalty, you think, gee, that's another penalty they get. It doesn't really make much difference, though, does it?
Well, here come the Roosters. O'Malley inside the 20. Orbison, now Pearce. Crossfield turns it inside to Anasta. Nice tackle, Miller. 12 metres out from the line, the Roosters, after absorbing some pressure, the chance now to maybe score first. Here's Miles, straight and hard. 3 green machine players bringing to the ground. Buttress, one of them. Miller in there, and Shillington. Orbison at acting half. Here's Pearce kicking into the in-goal area. There's no chase, although Fitzgibbon gets there late. It's on the ground. Who wants it forced? Fitzgibbon really the only chaser. And Canberra seemed to take their time because they weren't concerned about the chase from Craig Fitzgibbon, but in the end he almost got there.
Yeah, they were left a little bit posted there. It was a good option to kick early because it caught the Raiders napping, but at the same time their chasers just weren't through there quick enough.
What a booming drop kick. That's almost a world record. 30 metres out from his own line, Minicello takes it and finds Nate Miles. Minicello had to run 20 metres to link up with him. What a drop kick that was. He can kick a ball, Terry Campese, can't he? Mason plays it. Now here's O'Malley. Nice tackle again by Miller. Right around the legs, chopped him down. Up towards the 20. Buttress inside to Fitzgibbon. Another good tackle there from Shillington. Around the legs, dropped him down. Pearce. Mason runs the decoy inside. Here's Minicello into yawning space. Kenny Dow will score. No forward, says the referee. A forward pass. The touch judge, David Aboud, said it was forward. And Jared Maxwell comes back and says, I agree, or I accept your call. And no try to the Roosters. It must have been close.
Well, they're looking sharp, the Roosters. They're looking very sharp indeed. This is one of their pet plays, Minicello coming around. And
leg up for us, David.
it's, yeah, obviously the touch judge was in good position. We can't possibly tell from the angle of this camera. The touch judge was in line. But it was a play that the Roosters have used over the past couple of years with Minicello coming around, and they'll continue to use it through the course of the day.
I think you got it right. He passed before the line, Minicello. It was caught after the line, and he had to lunge for it too, Kenny Dow. But it was a butchered try there from the Roosters. A huge sigh of relief for Canberra supporters as Turner now plays it. Some encouraging signs here for the Roosters. They've been able to keep the Raiders under control down the other end, and their first opportunity they could have scored. Here's Milne. Kenny Dow coming off his wing to make the tackle again, and Mason's there also.
We can see a lot more enthusiasm in the way they're moving off their defensive line today, the Roosters. The Raiders, that's where the Raiders should be looking at to try and target some yards in and around the ruck against the roll of the attack.
Oh, terrific kick there from Campese. He didn't have much room to work with. He was under pressure. He kicked it back to the wrong side for a right foot kicker and found touch somehow. Trouble for the Raiders though. Buttress limping to this scrum. And with no Flanagan on the bench, it means that Tongue would have to go in as Brad Fittler looks like it was a 40-20. Was he inside the 40? Is that what they're saying? The crowd's cheering. I'm watching Buttress come back. He was very close. Herbert's got the ball. If that's the 40-20, that's one of the best you've ever seen.
Well, he had not much angle to work with. He was only about 15, maybe 20 metres in from the sideline. There we can see here. And he kicks back against the grain off the outside of his the outside of his foot.
Terrific stuff from Campese. What a kick that was. It was good before. It's even better now that's a 40-20.
That's a huge call.
Here's Croker. Near the touchline on the far side. It's Gibbon there, makes the tackle. Now Turner Shillington. A couple of metres away from the goal line. Critical play early, particularly if the Raiders can score here. Miller runs the decoy. Here's Campese. Now Herbert. Decoy run as Milne sticks a hand out. Was there obstruction there? The referee said play on. It opened up for Milne. I think if they would have gone upstairs, they may have got it to go their way, the Roosters. Now Campese pops the ball back to Harrison. Comes down the short side again. The defence is there. Mitch Orbison on this occasion with the tackle. Last here, Tongue goes into acting half. Now Herbert to Buttress, seems to recover. He steps off his left foot, still going arm free. No one to link with changeover. They had 5-on-2 on the outside, but they just couldn't get the ball to them.
Well, if he had his option again, I'm sure Glenn Buttress would have promoted the football because they had a massive overlap, as you pointed out, Mark. In fact, that side of the field, the Roosters' right side of the field, is tending to get caught short almost every occasion that the Raiders are looking to go on that side of the field.
Down to the touchline for the first time this afternoon, Stuart Raper. Stuart, the Roosters would be, I suppose, satisfied with their start to this game.
Well, Wayne's already said it. They're very enthusiastic in the way that they're playing their game. The sun's come out. It's very warm as a penalty goes to the Roosters, but it's very warm down here. And one of the things that both coaches are going to have to be very watchful of is their interchange, especially Freddie Fittler. He's got Willie Mason, who hasn't played a lot of football or any football in a long time. How he utilises him and how he utilises their players. But it's very warm, and the doctors have agreed to let a yellow trainer to go on and give more water throughout this first half, as long as they don't abuse it.
The Roosters fine touch, about 8 metres into Canberra territory. There's Big Willie. There's Sia Soliola. Towards the 30, 20 in from the far touchline. Fitzgibbon now. Runs at Miller. Good tackle. Tongue again. 23 metres away from the line. On a bit of a roll here, the Roosters. Pearce tries to take the line on and Miller's there to make the tackle. 12 metres away from the goal line. Orbison, James. Now here's Anasta. He tries to take them on. Shillington there to make the tackle. 5 away from the goal line. Orbison, decoy run. O'Mealy's dropped the ball and the Raiders have come up with it. It'll be a scrum with the Raiders loose and feed. But Mark O'Mealy coming up with the error. Bit of a one-out play there in that set from the Roosters.
Yeah, looked to me that O'Mealy was setting himself to run it as a decoy, but he received the ball in the end. There certainly was a brick wall he was running up against, and the Raiders' goal line defence has been very solid so far. They've been tested on 3 occasions, 3 sets, and apart from that try that was disallowed, they've held up.
Here's Purtell. So both sides have had an opportunity for a try. Purtell dropping it with the line wide open in just the first couple of minutes, and then Kenny Dowell called back for a forward pass. But it's still 0-all. It's 13 minutes gone. Here's Campese almost into space. Quick play the ball too. 2 Roosters on the ground. Buttress out of acting half. Now to Tongue. Steps away from Orbison. Can't get away from Sedamata Sarr though. He's tackled a couple of metres into Roosters territory. Buttress, who seems to have fully recovered from that knock to the ankle. Wastes the tackle there though. Pearce with the tackle. Here's Tongue. No one to pass to. Has to go himself. He just dropped the ball. And so now the Roosters have come up with possession. That's in the finalists for the worst kicks of the year. We're only in round 2.
It was.
Struggled to be any better than that.
Not a renowned kicker there, Alan Tongue. He's looking for a little short one in behind the line, but what it has done in these conditions has given good field position to the Roosters. It's going to, whichever team wins this game today in these hot conditions, and they are quite oppressive for this time of the year, it's going to require the players to dig extremely deep. Bear in mind, the Raiders last week in their second half didn't score a point against the Tigers, so whilst they started well, they were poor in the second half, particularly in their ball control.
And on cue, speaking of ball control, this time it's the Roosters. They've turned it over. I'd have thought that pass from Orbison to Pearce was forward anyway. The crowd thought it was, but the referee said no.
And just poor control there by Pearce, stepping back on the inside, saw a hole, and the ball very greasy out there. And I think we're going to see teams struggle to actually complete their sets. And the physical confrontation of both these big packs early on is quite robust.
Let's go.
The Roosters really taking their time to get to this scrum while Sedamata Sarr gets some treatment for a cut to the eye. Ronnie Palmer there, corner man. And the Raiders fans not too happy about it either. Kempisi finds Herbert. Now Monahan. First opportunity for him to have a bit of a run one-on-one up against Mitch Orbison. Here's Carney. Not the best of passes, but Kempisi's able to tidy it up. Last couple of sets have been a little bit erratic here from the Raiders. You could hear Terry Kempisi telling Justin Carney not to do that. 10 metres short of the halfway line. Turner, good hit there from Soliola. You could feel that up here almost. I'm sure you could feel it at home as well. Buttress down the short side. Here's Croker. Can he stay in? He does. Over the top comes Miles. They're 30 metres away from the line. Now Kempisi on the last tackle will put it high in the air. Minicello's got the goalpost near him, but no real pressure other than that. Oh, he says he took it in the in-goal area. I thought he might have taken it and then stepped back, but the referee was closer than I.
Yeah, I thought it was good work from Minicello. He had great spatial awareness of where the try line was. Put his back foot back there, so he was in the in-goal area.
Oh, no. Here's a breakdown for the Roosters down the touchline. I still think he moved his foot from the field to play into the in-goal area after he caught it. 30 metres away from the line. And Astor. Now to Pearce. Here's Fitzgibbon. Straight and hard. Turner made a tackle that had to be made. 15 metres out from the line. Quick play the ball, Orbison. Now to Pearce. He finds Sarr on the inside to Soliola. A couple of metres away from the line. Orbison. At acting half, Mitchell Pearce had to reach for it, kicking for Anasta. Milne intercepts and now races away from his own goal line. Dummies to Tongue. I thought for a moment David Milne was going to open up for him. The kick was for Anasta. There's a shoulder charge from O'Mealy that's forced the ball free. Herbert picks it up. They've turned defence into attack here through Harrison, the Raiders. He then passes it out the back to Carney.
Well, they can't keep this intensity up in these hot conditions. It's amazing. Both teams playing so much up-tempo. It's going to take its toll. It's got to take its toll.
16 and a half minutes gone. Barely a break because we've had no... Here's another 40-20 chance from Kempisi. He's found the touchline. Was his foot on the line? Terry Kempisi may have come up with two 40-20s in the first 17 minutes.
As you pointed out, Mark, he's got a massive, massive boot on him. And he was conscious of where the 40-metre line was, and that's not a problem. It's a massive boot.
He just does it so easy.
He does. But it's not just the length of his kick, it's the accuracy. Signals to the fans, he knows what a big turning point this could be.
And there was no way that the Roosters could have stopped that because it was a booming kick and Minicello had no chance of getting it.
Well, he kicked it on early play too, so the winger wasn't going to be back set for it.
But can they make the most of it? They've had their opportunities down here so far, the Raiders, but haven't been able to convert into points. They've had 10 opportunities in the opposition 20 and come up with nothing so far. Shillington playing first receiver and throws the front rowers pass to Monahan, who was almost away. And now Anasta grabs him and brings him to ground with Mason. Herbert. Ball to Harrison under enormous pressure. Pops it back to Milne. He looks to pass and then decides he has to go himself. He's tackled by Orbison. James a couple of metres away from the goal line. Buttress turns it into Miller. Can't get through there. Orbison and O'Mealy are waiting for him. They're using up tackles here, Canberra. 3 to go. Herbert, Harrison, short ball. Mitch Orbison with a good tackle. 2 left in this set now, and they're no closer to the goal line. Still a few metres away. Buttress at acting half. Herbert looking to weave. Nothing on there. Last tackle. It's been an uninspiring set here from the Canberra Raiders, although the Roosters are short to the left. Here's Campese. Awful kick again. Turner's come up with it. Knock on, says the referee. We've seen 2 finalists for the worst kick of the year in the first 18 minutes from the Raiders after such a booming one from Campese. That was one of the poorest sets you'll see from Canberra.
Yeah, they've come up with a few poor options on their set completions, and Terry Campese, we don't normally see too much of that, but the Roosters' defence give them a big tick because, as I said last week, they weren't getting off their line, they lacked enthusiasm, but so far in this match, they're racing off their line in defence, and that's putting pressure on the ball players, Terry Campese and Herbert for the Raiders.
The Roosters have got up to the halfway with relative ease as well. And here's Sedamata Sara floating at the back, and Soliola's knocked it on. Just as we were saying how easy they were making their way down the field, they come up with an error. About to see Shane Shackleton come into the game for the Roosters, the first interchange of the match to be made by Sydney Roosters, as we see. Just a simple mistake.
Yeah, but I'm not critical of that. I mean, if you just go and lock the ball up all game, yeah, you might complete your sets, but you're really going to be unproductive in terms of coming up with points. Second phase, Soliola should have been just looking to stay alert, and there could have been an opportunity.
Here's Pertell down to the touchline. Stuart Raper.
Yeah, you talk about second phase football. As a player, you've got to make a decision. Is it the right time or the wrong time? And sometimes you can come up with a wrong decision about making an error. The Raiders last week had 19 offloads, and it really caused a lot of trouble, especially for the first half against the West Tigers. Bronson Harrison himself come up with 9. Now, he's already come up with a couple, and he's very strong on this right-hand side.
Here's Troy Thompson, who's on the field in jumper number 19. For the Green Machine. He's tackled right in centre field, 22 metres away from the goal line. He's hurt, though, in his first touch of the football.
Yeah, just to further to what Stewie was saying, in hot conditions, if you can promote second phase play, it really does torment the opposition and burn up their fuel and burn up their energy. And the Raiders last week, particularly in that first half against the Tigers, were outstanding. They haven't been able to come up with the same sort of offloads early in this game and really test the Roosters' defence on that second phase defence.
Hopefully just a cork there for Thompson. And some treatment to a left leg, left knee injury. First hit up, he'd only just been on the field for about 30 seconds.
He's got a huge work rate too, Troy Thompson, so if he can't continue, that will knock them around enormously.
And their interchange bench, as you mentioned, in the hot conditions as well. This is the first time since round 12 in 2008, according to our statistician Malcolm in the Middleton, that the Raiders have failed to score in the first 20 minutes at home. So it's been a while. And the fans are wondering what's going on as Thompson is limping from the field. Chillington was going to come off for Tom Leroy-Lars, but he's been sent back onto the field. And Thompson may have come on for 30 seconds and may be going straight off, and Tom Leroy-Lars continues to wait on the touchline in jumper number 22.
Well, they're reluctant to bring Thompson off because
he's only just got on.
Well, that's right. Yeah, well, that's another dent.
There's a mistake. Shillington drops the football. And he's limped off Thompson, and Tom Leroy-Lars has gone on. Maybe it's a little bit more than a cork for Thompson. Maybe there's that lack of some strength in the knee. And the Roosters keep it alive here. Here's Nate Miles, runs at Buttress, stepped through that tackle, but couldn't get away from Tongue, 10 short of the halfway line.
They're playing aggressively, the Roosters, a lot more aggressively than they were last week, and they're looking a lot more confident. They're going forward in numbers, and they're getting yardage over the advantage line relatively easily.
There goes Thompson up the tunnel. Not a good sign for Canberra. Ball on the ground. Who wants it? Mitch Orbison picks it up. Tom Leroy-Lars back from suspension, flings him to ground. Here's the last. Pearce puts the ball high in the air. A tester here for Milne. Here comes a Nasta. Milne does very well. He's lost the ball. Minicello. There's a penalty.
15 was in front and within 10. 15.
Shane Shackleton penalised for being in front of the kicker. Anthony Minicello knocked the ball free, but then knocked it on there. Anyway, so Canberra would have come up with possession. He did well, didn't he, David Milne?
Well, he's one of the most improved players in the competition over the past 12 months. He came into first grade, basically been hovering around for a few years out on the wing for the Raiders, but came in to fill a hole at fullback last year and made it his own. He's been extremely dangerous on kick receptions since he's been playing fullback for just under 12 months.
5 short of halfway. Canberra's into the field. 3 to change made now by Canberra as David Chillington comes off. Here's Purtell. The outside men trying to get in to relieve some of the pressure for the forwards. And we'll be feeling it in these warm conditions. About 26, 27 degrees here in Canberra. There's a high tackle on Trevor Thurling. Referee said no. Now here's Herbert. Monahan. Kenny Dow coming in off his wing to assist Mason to make the tackle. 2 tackles left in the set here for Canberra. Leroy Lars, Fitzgibbon, as they try and wrap the ball up here, the Roosters. They know how dangerous this Canberra side can be with their offloads. Last tackle, Campese. What sort of a kick will it be? Little kick for the corner. Minicello has it covered. It's an awkward bounce for him, and Croker's there to wrap him up. And now they've got to work it out from their own end here, the Roosters.
He's got such a variety to his kicking game too, Terry Campese. He can kick high with accuracy, he kicks long with accuracy. He's got a good kick along the ground as well. So he's growing in not only in confidence, but I think in his array of skills since he's settled on the 5'8" position. Because bear in mind, he floated around as a bit of a back rower, come centre, come 5'8" for the first couple of years before he settled in at the 5'8" role.
Knocking the tackle is Nate Miles down there. Feeling a little bit the worse for wear. It is Miles. And there's Tom Leroy Lars.
He's been strong for them too, Nate Miles. He really came of age towards the back end of last season for the Roosters. And he started off well in the trials early on this season. Like they were all pretty poor last week, but he's been one of their consistent performers. Real good, strong go forward player. He's tough too. It's got to be a solid knock to keep him down.
Nate Miles having words with Tom Leroy Lars. There is Mal Meninga looking on. A legend here at Canberra. And now the ball is kept alive here by the Roosters. Down the far touchline, Sam Perrott comes away from the eastern touchline and is tackled just over the 50. He'll play the ball back. Here's Pearce, Fitzgibbon. Shackleton. Nice tackle, tongue over the top turner. 30 metres out from the line. Orbison. Soliola. 15 in from the eastern touchline. You can hear the wind picking up in the ground microphones, and be a cooling breeze as well as Orbison. Mitchell back on the inside, away from 2, 3, 4. Back to Minicello, steps inside Turner, bounces away from it. Oh, he lost the ball. He lost the ball, Minicello. The goal line was right there. Is someone going to score a try this afternoon? You would have thought with these two sides, or Canberra in particular, we'd see plenty, but 25 gone. They've had their chances, but no one's taken them.
We'll see plenty when this heat takes its toll, particularly in the back end of this game. But Mitch Orbison back on the inside. Minicello, he just knows how to support. He knows where to run on support. Virtually gets over the line, but last-ditch desperation defence there from the Raiders manages to knock the ball free.
He's hurt himself bad here too, Minicello. He's in a lot of pain. I think his ankle got caught. And this is not a good sight. You can see he falls awkwardly just here, I think it is.
His left ankle.
Yeah, his left ankle. And how you can get up after that is a miracle. Shows how supple all the ligaments and tendons are for these players, but he can't go on, surely. He can barely walk. 28 degrees at the moment, the temperature, according to Malcolm in the Milton, our statistician. He's just got these at his fingertips, everything.
Well, you look at Minicello, he's a player that needs his speed, he needs his mobility too at fullback. So It's going to be tough to see if he can free that ankle up very quickly.
This is just, when you see something like that and see a player get up, and he's not walking great, but he's a chance of running this out, Minicello. He won't want to come off.
Well, I mean, the fortunate thing about an ankle is, unlike a knee's very hard to strap up. You can actually strap up an ankle and give it a fair bit of support, particularly if it's the ligaments.
Let's get down to the touchline. Stewie Raper, who's got some news on Troy Thompson.
Yeah, well, he's back out on the sideline. They're still working on him. It looks like a left knee injury, which is good news because he's obviously coming back from an Achilles problem. But they're still working on him. They still think he's a chance. It's an error from Carney.
And here's a chance for the Roosters. Willie Mason, if he'd thrown the pass, they score in the corner. Minicello, who's still limping, and Monahan has coat-angered Big Willie. Now they may score. Minicello! Have you ever seen a player limp and stumble for a try in the corner? He looked 90 years of age.
A look at the touchline down here. I'm okay with the grounding.
But he may have scored the try, Anthony Minicello.
He was hobbling massively. You can still see him hobbling there. We're
lucky it was only 8 metres he had to run.
Did he actually stay in the field of play, because he didn't have much speed happening for him. He goes well in here, and that's a try. Yeah, he's done well. He's done well.
And he'll come straight off because he can't play. I didn't think he was going to get there. Here's the decision from Tim Mander. There will be a try, and the last bit of action for Anthony Minicello. There it is. The Roosters have finally put points on the board. They lead by 4 points to 0. And surely that's the last bit of action Anthony Minicello will see this afternoon.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it might be able to come back on. Depends on what the injury is. But the Roosters, they hit back to this near side. Well, this is the second occasion. The first time Willie Mason almost got the ball free, decided to hold it in the end. They came back on a second occasion, and they've highlighted the Raiders' right side defence as a weakness. Last week against the Tigers attacked the Raiders' right side defence, come up with a couple of tries. Here today, the Roosters have decided to target that same area.
Let's not forget too, it came off the back of the mistake. Drop ball from Justin Carney from a scrum. Simple pass, should have been caught. Here's Fitzgibbon. Tough kick, near touch, 21 metres, 22 metres out. It's been the Roosters in the last 10 or so minutes that have dominated possession and field position. He struck it reasonably well, but it's just not coming back enough. And so the score remains 4 points to 0. The Roosters over the Raiders, who have conceded the first try in 8 of their last 10 games. So that trend continues.
Yeah, but it's just reward for the Roosters, who have played up-tempo, they've played enthusiastic. They've actually been supporting each other very well so far in this match and looking to keep the ball alive. They've been looking to promote the football. Yeah, sure, they've come up with a few errors off the back of that, but it's also resulted in that try.
If it was 10 metres he had to run, Minicello, he wouldn't have made it.
He wouldn't have.
Of course, it was 8. Now you see the last 5 minutes has been quite stunningly towards the Roosters. 20 metres out, I should say, from their own line. 13 minutes of play remaining till half-time. Fitzgibbon.
Gee, he leads by example, Craig Fitzgibbons. It's in his 243rd game, and he's playing as good as he's ever played.
Here's the kick. Down inside the 10. Milne. 15 out from his own line.
James!
Paul Nuasala getting ready to come on for the Roosters. Here's Carney. He's got a bit to make up for.
And the Raiders still just getting back on side, so they are looking a little bit flat. They look like the heat's starting to take its toll. The Roosters have had the bulk of possession in recent times, and they're just not playing the up-tempo, enthusiastic style that we've come accustomed to watching.
Purtell, 10 short of halfway. Here's Leroy Lars. Good run there from Leroy Lars, picking up about 15 metres, and 3 Roosters needed to bring him to ground. Last tackle here for Canberra. Kempisi, they decide to run it. They've got numbers here. Harrison, Monahan. He now has the kick. The ball is high. Ben Jones back there at fullback, replacing Minicello. A little bit of pressure on him. He slips and gets away from one, but can't get away from the second.
And this is a question mark for the Roosters as well, because Ben Jones, normally a 5'8" or centre, playing at fullback positionally, might be an opportunity for Terry Campese to try and work him over with those kicks in behind the line, but did well on that occasion, Ben Jones.
And down at the touchline, Stuart Raper.
Yeah, well, obviously we saw Minicello go off with that ankle injury. It looks like he will not be back. A brave effort otherwise. You've got to tip your hat off to Willie Mason. First game back, he's going 30 minutes or 29 minutes in this oppressive heat, and he's still running around. So you've got to tip his hat off. It's a good break from Orbison up the middle.
35 metres away from the Canberra line. He'll play it. Pearce at acting half, and Nasta kicking for the corner. Milne coming across. Has it just got too much on it? It has. So it'll be a 20-metre restart here for the Canberra Raiders. And I think both sides will be pleased to have a little bit of a breather here.
Yeah, but the Raiders really under the pump. They've had hardly any possession over the last probably 10 minutes. The Roosters looking to play up-tempo. They're playing with a lot of enthusiasm, and they're going forward in numbers. What I like is the fact they're getting off the line in defence.
Turn up. Here's Campese. Now Leroy Lars straight and hard with the offload. Back to Campese. Numbers here for the Raiders. Harrison sliding defence here from the Roosters. Carney still going. Good cover defence there from Shane Shackleton. Brings him to ground 10 into Roosters territory. Harrison taken by Nuasala and Shackleton, but he's inside the 30. Milne at acting half. Campese goes on the outside here to Buttress playing wide. He straightens through a gap. Taken from behind by Fitzgibbon. 5 metres away from the line. Turner at acting half. Campese kicking. Nuasala played at that for mine. Still last tackle. If you come up and put pressure on the kicker, surely if you touch the football, it has to be restarted. And Tongue makes the tackle on the Roosters. I think they're a bit hard done by there, the Raiders.
Yeah, I thought he played at the football, which should have been a restart, but nevertheless, you go with the call, and the Roosters now looking to clear the football once again. The Raiders, they're just not getting off the line. They're not, to me, they look like they're running low on fuel. Understandably so, because it's been such a fast contest in this first half.
Willie Mason coming from the field. Good stint first up there for Big Willie of 31 minutes.
Well, it's the quality of his effort today too, Willie Mason. He's really looked to enthuse the Roosters forwards. He's been looking to cart the ball over the advantage line, and his quality of talk's been great.
Here's Pearce kicking on the last tackle. Was that touched by the Raiders? I think it was. No, it wasn't, says the referee. Out on the full from Mitchell Pearce. Changeover, an opportunity here for the Canberra Raiders.
Well, he'd be filthy with that particular kick that went out on the full there. Didn't have much angle to work with. Trying to cut a little bit too fine.
Leroy Lars across field. He's proven a handful since he's come on, although the pass wasn't great. Picked up there by Thurling. He then offloads to Harrison. They've gone back about 15 metres here, Canberra. He keeps it alive now to Herbert. Herbert finds Milne. He goes forward, steps out of a tackle, and he's back to the halfway line. Well, they lost 5 metres, but it went through about 10 sets of hands.
Well, they've got away from their go forward. They just haven't got the go forward happening here. And once again, Leroy Lars gets snapped down there. Shane Shackleton was the man. He's come on and made a real difference for the Roosters as well.
Here's Carney trying to duck under some defenders. Shackleton, Nuasala in there, and Astor as well. 40 metres out from the Roosters line. Thurling, good tackle. Shackleton's been impressive since he's come on. The work he has done has been terrific. Now here's Herbert. Campese filthy. He didn't get the ball at the first receiver. Milne goes into acting half. As Picker plays it. Here's the kick from Herbert. It's to the wing of Kenny Dow. Monahan was blocked out of the way and gets a penalty. Well, I'm not sure that Mitchell Orbison changed.
Never going for the ball.
He may not have been going for the ball, but he certainly, I don't know whether he changed his direction. He's entitled to run.
Well, I'm looking.
Let's see it again. Oh, yes, he has. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, you can't object to that. He changed his line, and that's the key indicator that the referee was looking at.
He didn't camouflage it very well either.
Too honest.
Buttress takes the tap. Here's Herbert. Thurling. They've had so many opportunities here, Canberra. They haven't scored yet, which is unusual for them. They keep it alive again. Tongue, Herbert. Long ball, Monahan. Kenny Dowell off his wing again, making the tackle. 10 metres away from the line. Buttress at acting half. Here's Tongue showing it inside. 5 metres away now. Quick play the ball. Back to Buttress. Chance here for the Raiders. Surely must score. No, Croker can't get it away. Terrific tackle. Perrott unmarked. Purtell on his outside. Campese had no one to pass to. Goes himself. If he can reach out, he'll score. They force him back. And you can see Terry Campese filthy with his outside men. Last tackle. Comes back to Purtell. He is going to kick. Here comes the chase. Kenny Dowell does well. This tackle in air by Carney. Didn't like it. Did break the Nasta.
Justin Carney. Right foot to the second. Mid-air. Right, straight penalty. Braith. Braith and Nasta. Come here. The whistle's gone. I'll deal with it. You come in, you can find yourself in trouble too.
Well, it was a great take here by Sean Kenny Dowell. Carney tackled him whilst he was still in the air, and that's what obviously the Roosters players were objecting to. But the penalty had already been given by the referee, Gerard Sutton.
So coming down to the final 5 minutes of this first half, critical part of the game. Just get the feeling that Canberra is getting more and more frustrated as this game goes on.
They are getting frustrated. In that last set, you made mention of it, but that tackle by Sam Perrott on Croker saved a try, which almost looked like a certain try, and the Raiders really needed that. They need to show that they can break this Roosters line.
Shackleton. Terry Campese is getting frustrated because the players aren't in the position that they're obviously supposed to be. He's been barking instructions. Purtell stood. Perrott loses it. Perrott almost came up with possession. And Canberra, that should be a penalty and is. Well, that was silly from Setamata Sarr. They had them pinned inside their own 10 just before half-time, and well, that's their coach killers.
That's just, you're just brain dumb when you do stuff like that. I mean, it's what's the logic in doing something like that as blatant as that? Yeah, the referee had already called held.
They're still keeping it alive here, Canberra, as Buttress is tackled just over the 30-metre line. Tongue, now to Carney. Let's get down to the touchline. Stuart Roper has the word on Anthony Minicello.
Yeah, it's not good news for Anthony Minicello. It's his left ankle ligament. They're going to take him to the hospital for precautionary x-rays, so he won't be back. So it's unfortunate, but how brave was he?
Absolutely. Let's hope it's not too serious, because after what he's been through with his back.
We hear about players scoring on one leg. He's literally done that.
Absolutely. Campese now. Here's Herbert. Now the pass to Harrison. Back to the middle of the ruck. Campese. Campese goes back to Picker. Picker straightens, has the arm free, but doesn't offload the football. And it's the last here for Canberra, who just seem to be going around in circles a bit at the moment, as Campese puts it high. Here comes Kenny Dowell. They all watch it, and Herbert just couldn't quite get there to take it.
Steady on. Knock on off Mark Herbert. Fifth tackle, hand over.
So the change over here for the Roosters.
Yeah, there's no real punch there from the Raiders. They just look flat. They look incohesive. And Campese, yes, Campese is looking frustrated. But it's not a normal Raiders performance. They're just playing very fragmented indeed.
10 short at the halfway line. Perrott. So 3 minutes out from half-time. The Raiders can ill afford to concede a try here. 4 points to nil. There's not much to worry about, but 10 points to nil becomes a pretty handy lead. Last tackle here for the Roosters. Pearce with another kick to the wing of Purtell. It's too deep. He lets it go over his head. Touching goal. It'll be a 20-metre restart.
A little bit too deep on that kick there. Didn't get the chasers enough time to get through. But the Roosters are still keen. They're still moving up off the line. And obviously they've had their tails down all week. Copped a massive amount of criticism in the press, and probably justifiably so. But they've come out here today and really put in a wonderful first half performance off the back of what happened last week.
Marker's not square, says Jared Maxwell, and the Raiders will have field position again just before half-time, but they've been down this end on plenty of occasions before. 21 tackles in the opposition 20 without a try, without a point. It only really looked like it once or twice. Bertel's dropped it, and a great tackle by Sam Perrott on Croker to stop the try.
Yeah, they just haven't had the usual bodies in motion, and that's frustrating their ball players, Terry Campese in particular.
His tongue. Now Campese, Harrison runs the decoy, Herbert, now to Carney, straight to his hands and over the touchline.
And on that occasion, and they've done it a few times in this game, a lot of times in this game, they've just moved the ball laterally. The Roosters are sliding off them, putting pressure on them. On that occasion, they came up with the error. There's not the usual change of direction. The players back on the inside, running the angles. It's just not happening here today for the Raiders.
They're not used to it here at Canberra Stadium in recent years, these supporters. But they're only down 4 points to nil. 30 seconds out from the break, and how both sides will be looking forward to a spell. Very hot conditions here this afternoon in Canberra. Just a couple of months whinging about the cold.
Move, Terry!
Orbison plays it. Here's a Nasta throwing the dummy. Monahan in there, in his right centre position to make the tackle. There's a hard pass to Pearce, and Herbert there to make the tackle. 25 out from his own line. Here's Kenny Dow, who's done terrific work defensively so far for the Roosters, and there's the halftime siren. And the Sydney Roosters go to the break with a lead. They lead the Canberra Raiders by 4 points to nil. Just the one try in the first half, but both sides have had plenty of chances. We'll take a break and come back and look at the first 40 minutes.
Well, big blow to Canberra. Glenn Buttress is gone for the game with an ankle injury. He's on crutches, so I'm sure they'll be utilising Alan Tongue in that position. Dave Ferner, he wants the Raiders to get a bit more direct before they go lateral, which is the way they're doing it. They just seem to be offloading too much. As far as the Roosters are concerned, Freddie Fittler's very happy with the way they performed. This half, there's a bit of a breeze picked up, and I think you'll be looking to see that they will be kicking early in the tackle count.
Well, here they come, the Roosters. Braithen Astor's out on the field, and there's no one with him. They're all still in the dressing room. Well, Braithen's very keen. He's out there on his own. There he is, the only player on the field. And the Roosters will finally come out behind him. Well, it was like it was his 200th game and he was being allowed to come out on his own there, Braithen Astor. So, but that is critical for Canberra. Glenn Buttress won't be back, and of course Troy Thompson lasted 30 seconds. So they may be down to just 2 interchange in these very warm conditions here, the Canberra Raiders.
Now the Roosters are down Anthony Minicello, which takes a lot out of their attack, but when you lose in these conditions 2 forwards, 2 key work rate forwards who are 80-minute players, or potentially long-term players on the field, you're looking at a massive blow given these hot conditions.
Well, Thompson is back on the bench for Canberra. Bronson Harrison has done plenty of work defensively, a number of hit-ups as well. He's got his left knee very heavily strapped
And limping.
Thompson. So there's Thompson there with the other interchange. See that left knee? He seems to be limping there, just walking for me. The second half about to get underway. Terry Campese has the ball placed in the centre of the halfway line. Jared Maxwell says, let's go, we're underway. With the Roosters leading by 4 points to nil, and they get first use of the football in this second half as Masala returns it. Leroy Lars going a little bit high again.
He started well in that first half, Shane Shackleton, once again.
There's Glenn Buttress on crutches. Not a good sign there with no Flanagan today also. Means Tongue has to go into hooker. At least you've got that option there with Alan Tongue for Canberra, who is making the tackle now for the Raiders. It's Shillington as well. Now here's Pearce kicking. That was outside the 40. Had his foot over the line. And now Pertell Taps the ball up towards the 20 and is tackled. So 3 Roosters there to make the tackle. There is Glenn Buttress. His foot in some ice. Let's hope it's not a long-term injury for the Raiders. Thurling. Tongue goes into acting half. Shillington runs the decoy. Herbert turns the ball back on the inside. They keep it alive. Tongue. He flicks it out the back and Milne wasn't expecting it. Should have been. They keep the ball alive so often, the Raiders, and they've come up with an error.
Well, when they're on their game, those passes and those hands stick. But today, the Raiders just haven't been on their game. They're only 4 points behind on the scoreboard, but they're just nowhere near how they've played at the back end of last season, even the first half last week. Bear in mind that they've gone for over 80 minutes now. Back end of last week, 40 minutes last week, first 40 minutes this week, without scoring a point. So they're certainly off their game.
Orbison, being Mitchell, is tackled right in centre field, about 38 out from the Raiders line. It was Sala. That's Lapini Payer on the field playing the football. Here's Pearce now, and Nasta with the drop. And that was a knock on, and he was offside too, the Canberra player. So should have come back for the first infringement, because it was kicked by one Canberra player. I think it was Carney. I thought Picker may have been in front of him, but anyway, Canberra would have come up with possession. Craig Fitzgibbon well offside there, and now almost into space was Herbert. He's tackled 40 out. Tongue comes into acting half, but he has no one to pass to, and now Payer's called offside. Here comes Harrison down the right-hand side. Keeps it alive back to Monaghan. This is a little bit more like Canberra trying to get the Roosters here on the back foot. 5 metres away from the line. Nuasala wrestles him onto his back. Could easily have been penalised there. Seen that penalised plenty of occasions. Herbert turns the ball back inside to Leroy Lars. Straightens. Good tackle there, Fitzgibbon. 5 metres away from the line. Herbert. Now Campese. Milne. Tried to bounce away there from Soliola, who came up with a good tackle with the assistance of Sedamata Sarr. Last tackle here for Canberra. Another tackle inside the opposition 20. Campese kicking, not his best. Jones under no pressure. Another disappointing end of the set for the Canberra Raiders.
They haven't finished their sets in very flash fashion. Apart from 2 40-20s, the options that they've taken, that one was no pressure on Ben Jones. And I thought, given Ben Jones, a rookie, only second game in first grade, and not a nominated or normal fullback, I thought Campese might work him over with regards to some kicks along the ground, but we haven't seen that as such. Jones has done whatever's been asked of him so far in this match.
Gee, Shackleton's been impressive since he's come on.
He's been outstanding. He's just taken the forwards up another level with his intensity and his enthusiasm.
Payer plays it and goes straight back to the ground. A bit of an injury. Lapini player and Tongue with another terrific tackle for Canberra. 40 metres away from the line. Last tackle. Pearce under pressure from Tongue. Gets the kick to Milne. He's running around and almost overran it. In the end, took it very well, and a great tackle from Anasta.
Well, it was great work from Anasta because he was the only one chasing through. If Milne had got around Anasta, he would have cart the ball back another 30 metres. And great follow-up defence there by the Roosters. Well, Soliola and Pearce.
Pick up. Pearce with the tackle, 15 metres out from the Raiders line, and a penalty. A lot of the penalties the Roosters have conceded have been down that end of the field to let the Raiders get out of trouble today.
Yeah, it's just struggling with the interpretation of how quickly they can get the players up. They've got to adapt to this 2-referee rule. Otherwise, they're going to continue to concede penalties.
Here's Shillington running there at Payer, who makes the tackle with Nate Miles. And Braithen Astor, I should say. Now here's Leroy Lars. Flicks it out the back to Tongue. Turns it to Thurling. Fitzgibbon is there to make the tackle with James Orbison. Soliola there as well. Here's Campese now. To the line, Terry Campese. Terrific tackle. from Setbacks. Fitzgibbon there as well. Short side. Picker, can he reach out? He's only a metre away from the line. Pearce over the top, wrapped it up. Around the legs with Soliola. Sloppy play, the ball leads to a sloppy play. Now Milne. Runs straight there at Peo, who makes a very good tackle. Last again here for the Canberra Raiders. Tongue at acting half. Here's Herbert. To the line, kicking. It's off the hand of Orbison. Monahan can't get it down. That went backward. Was it forced by Harrison or did he lose it?
Mate, I have 6 again here. We're just looking at see if Joel Monahan actually knocks the ball forward in the end goal.
I thought it went back from Monahan. I had a doubt on Harrison, but the referee doesn't, and he was closer. But I thought out of Monahan's hands, it went backwards. Tim Mander will decide whether it did or not. How did you see it, Wayne?
Yeah, I've got a question mark over whether or not Monahan knocked the ball forward, but it was a difficult kick there, a very difficult kick to try and catch. We can't really see from that angle there. Monahan gets a hand, he gets a hand on it. There's no doubt he gets a hand on it. Yeah, well, I think the ball probably goes forward. If you look at the line.
Well, from that angle it looks like it, but have a look here.
Which way does it go? Which way does it go? Yeah.
I think
it looks
on
like
the balance of probability, it most probably went forward.
Probably gone forward. I think the line gives us an indication of where contact was and where the ball ends up. So I think it'll be a knock-on.
I know you say benefit of the doubt comes in, but I think there's just too much doubt there.
I think there's a knock-on.
No try and 20-metre restart. It is no try, and so the Raiders come up empty again down to the touchline. Stuart Raper.
Well, the alarm bells must be ringing for Freddie Fittler. This offload game of the Raiders is really hurting the Roosters, the way that they're popping the ball out the back and getting plenty of second phase. He's gone to the bench early in this second half and put Marco Murley back on the field.
Right in centre field, and Murley plays it. Here's Fitzgibbon. Towards the 15 metre short of the halfway. Orbison off their hands there. They see a Soliola like he was expecting it to be, or thought it was supposed to be, a cutout pass. There was no one outside him anyway to take it, and the Roosters have come up with a disappointing error.
Well, they started poorly in the first half and kept the Raiders out, but that was a much fresher Roosters outfit. They can't afford to give lack of communication there. They can't afford to give the Raiders outfit, given the, as I said, the heat, the fatigue that will set in. Too much more ball down this end of the field, or the Raiders will capitalise, and the Roosters will be once again in a much tougher arm wrestle, because the Raiders will no doubt gain some confidence from that. At the moment, they're playing without confidence, the Raiders.
Well, it's now, what, 87 minutes since they've scored a try, 87 minutes since they've scored a point. Some enthusiastic defence there from the Roosters on Trevor Thurling. Now Tongue to Shillington, 20 metres away from the goal line. Tongue, Campese, Leroy Lars straight and hard at Pearce, who makes a good tackle with Setbacks. Fitzgibbon was there as well. And Leroy Lars plays it. Finally, Campese out the back. Milne tackle without the football, and the tackle count should restart, and does, because Soliola got a hand to it. I thought Milne was taken without it. This is Picker. Surely they've got a break here eventually, the Roosters, although the Raiders haven't really looked like getting through them. Now they might. Just short of the line, a metre away. Thurling will play it. Here's Tongue. Leroy Lars has lost the football. It's gone over the dead ball line. It'll be a 20-metre restart.
It's a gutsy effort by the Roosters. The Raiders realise that, and they're desperate to score points, but the Roosters refuse to give in. They're getting up off the line once again. That's a good, solid, committed effort by Sarr to jolt the ball free from Leroy Lars, who's been probably their most damaging player, the Raiders, since he's been on the field. But they'll continue to grow in confidence, the Roosters, but they've just got to complete their sets and get some field position. They haven't had much field position at all in the game.
Paya. 6-7 metres short of the halfway line. Fitzgibbon over the halfway mark, and Tongue is there to make the tackle with Joe Picker. The sixth interchange just being made by the Roosters as Nate Miles goes back on. Here's Setbacks is tackled 30 metres away from the Canberra line. Last tackle here for the Roosters. Pearce will put the ball into the air to the wing of Carney. Herbert is over there. It's too deep, is it? Dropped by Kenny Dowell. Picked up here by Herbert. Going to turn defence into attack here. The Green Machine. This is where they're dangerous. Herbert, who can he link with? He's away from a couple. He links here with Milne. Milne will stand and look to offload, but they wrap him up. No, they can't. It comes back to Monahan. Monahan spins away from one, gets away from another, and is finally taken the ground 8 metres short of the halfway line. That's the Green Machine we've known for the last couple of years. Shillington offload Campese. Now to Furling. Furling offloads then to Carney to Croker down the touchline. Throws it back, and Picker, as he lost it, he has. Trying to drag it towards him, he lost control of it.
Well, that's more of the Green Machine, the Mean Machine from 2008, where they surged towards the semi-finals, keeping the ball alive, moving it around, getting a second phase play happening, but they just went one pass too many and took the pressure off the Roosters. Have a look at that, 17 offloads, a mere 3 from the Roosters. In hot conditions, offloads really does cause the opposition enormous problems, but they still haven't capitalised on that vast number of offloads that they've had, and there that shows that they've had plenty of field position in which to capitalise to the Raiders, but they just haven't been able to get across the Roosters line.
Maybe they got too close to the line. They scored long-range tries, Canberra. Maybe
they're the best in the competition at long-range tries.
Maybe within 20 metres they just don't have enough room to work with. That might be it. How about the effort of Craig Fitzgibbon for the Roosters? He's just worked his heart out today. 31 tackles, 12 hit-ups. He has been outstanding.
And he's been sprinting off the line in defence as well. Oh, O'Mealy into a half hole. But he's been sprinting off the line in defence, looking to inspire the rest of the forwards.
Here's Pearce, last tackle, kicking. It's an awkward bounce. It was knocked down, I think, by Campese. Forced back into the in-goal area. Lucky he did knock it down too.
Campese's hand.
That's what the referee says, because Setbacks was there to steal it.
Yeah, as we saw up the other end when the Raiders almost scored, these sort of kicks, rolling along the ground, difficult to predict. Unlike the ball in the air, you wouldn't know where it's going to come down. These kicks very hard to try and anticipate. And great kick there by
Watch
Richard
out
Pearce.
for Campese here. Oh, this is an ordinary one. It's only gone 55 metres, and Astor's under it. Must be a bit of a breeze that Stuart Raper mentioned picking up. Nice tackle there on Miles, who plays it. Here's O'Mealy. Great tackle again, Furling around the legs. Just chopped him down. Miles, tongue around the legs again. 18 metres away from the line, right in centre field. Now Pearce fades inside to Anasta, goes out here to Jones, hands to Kenny Dowell, and the Roosters. They've scored their second try. They lead by 8. That was well done, well constructed, well executed. And with a kick to come, they could extend it to 10.
Yeah, superb play there by the Roosters. One of their pet plays. Normally, Anthony Minicello, as we saw in the first half, is the player to run this play. He's not on the field, so they pick up Ben Jones. Great ball there. Mitchell Pearce picks up Ben Jones. Jones did extremely well, too, to time the pass to Sean Kenny Dowell, who had plenty of work to do because he still had defenders in front of him. Kenny Dowell, Jones, great timing with that pass. Gets inside 2 defenders, and he's got a great step and acceleration for a big man, Sean Kenny Dowell. And goes over and scores the try. So that's a huge boost to the Roosters. And they've been working away. They've been working away. They've targeted that right side Canberra defence as the weakness, and they've come up with the points.
Well, the Raiders now have dug themselves a very deep hole. They certainly can score points, but they haven't really looked like it today.
It's been a very un-Raiders-like performance. They've not dominated the forward clashes, the forward exchanges like we traditionally see, and that hasn't given them room to move out wide, and Terry Campese really has been caught with no room at all out there on the edges.
So Fitzgibbon with an opportunity to make it 10 the difference. About 16 metres in from the eastern touchline, about 18 metres out. Has little trouble in making it a 10-point lead to the Sydney Roosters. Down to the touchline, Stuart Raper.
Well, you can usually tell when a team is up by the way that their enthusiasm in defence is. And that's what it's been all day for the Roosters. They've been up in the faces of the Raiders players, putting pressure on their kicks, big hits down the middle, and that enthusiasm is breeding. And you can just tell on the bench, that try was scored, Willie Mason, they were all up. There's plenty of enthusiasm, and it's a different team than what we saw against the Rabbitohs last week.
Campese with the restart. Well, this will really test the mettle now of the Canberra Raiders as Miles returns the football. Gets it out over the 20. Here's Kenny Dowell, who's been impressive in everything he's done today. He's already had one try disallowed, and defensively he's been very good as well.
It was more than a handful. Oh, huge hit.
Miller and O'Mealy meeting together in the middle of Canberra Stadium, and Josh Miller's come off the worst for wear.
Two Sherman tanks go at each other there. Josh Miller still down behind play.
And he's trying to get back into position. He's regrouped a little bit better than he was a couple of seconds ago, as Milne does well to pick that rolling ball up and tries to run away. He's going to get tackled in goal, as he he gets away from Anasta somehow, and Anasta's hurt himself by clashing into the goalpost. So now they're one down, the Roosters. He really cannon into it. Shillington, he's up and limping. Miller's back, they're going down everywhere. Here's the big hit, bang, and Miller's come off the worst for wear, as Anasta's come off the worst for wear there. That's why we have padding, and that's why at Canberra I have the world's largest milk bottles. On Herbert into space, has dropped the football.
Played out by Roosters, second off Mark Herbert.
Played out first of all, that's why he dropped it.
Canberra free.
Ronnie Palmer signalling to the bench that there may be Anasta's in a bit of strife. Willie Mason's getting ready to come on.
It looked as though his thigh or hip area cannon into the goal or the pad of the post. And
Mason was going to come on, but he's been sent back.
Right.
Locked in.
Of course, Mal Meninga knows about crashing into goalposts at Seaford Oval and in Canberra. Now Monahan, 10 metres short of the halfway line. 10-0.
And we know that Glenn Buttress, Troy Thompson are out of the game. Josh Miller's just come from the field after that knock from Mark O'Mealy, so he's obviously in some discomfort as well, still.
And that's the 7th interchange as he comes off and Turner goes on. So Canberra, they have their problems, aside from the fact that they're down by 10. Turner. Soliola is tackled. Here's Campese. Picker. Last here for Canberra. Will they put pressure on Jones now with a high kick? Surely they must. No, they're going to run it. Herbert. He puts a little chip over the top, and Kenny Dowell is under no pressure whatsoever. And Monahan tries to force him into touch. He does. In the end, it's turned out to be a terrific kick. But Ben Jones must be breathing a sigh of relief every time they put the ball in the air.
Well, I thought they'd test him maybe on the ground, Ben Jones, but Sean Kenny Dowell, he did well to take the football, but came back towards the sideline. I've got no idea why he did that, because we all know how strong Joel Monahan is, and he just mauls him over the touchline. So they get another crack here now, the Raiders.
34 tackles inside the opposition 20. Well, they've got 6 more up their sleeve here. The Roosters, can they hold again? Tongue from the base of the scrum, turns it inside to Monahan. The Roosters are there waiting for him though. 5 metres away from the goal line. Herbert. Thurling back on the angle away from O'Mealy. Great tackle, Nate Miles. Right around the legs, chopped him down. Herbert. Campese. Turner runs the decoy. Now here's Croker. Out to Purtell. The defence from the Roosters is outstanding. Pearce has come up with it, but Soliola and Sam Perrott were great.
And once again, they slid off, and the Raiders ran themselves out of options, really. Just lateral passes. They've lacked the inside runners. They've lacked the angle runners to straighten the play today, the Raiders. And that's obviously something Dave Ferner is going to have to work on hard during the week.
Craig Fitzgibbon finally having a spell here for the Roosters. And that's their 8th interchange. So they've got 2 left and we've got 20 minutes of play remaining. This is going to become a real war of attrition here for both sides as we get down to the final 10 minutes. And if the Raiders can stay close, the next try becomes critical, doesn't it? If the Roosters lead by 16, you would think that they'd be able to hang on. But 10 points in these conditions with the interchange running out. And there's a flop from Shackleton, surely. The referee said no. Canberra Raiders fans shouldn't give up. There's plenty of time for them, even though they haven't really looked like scoring.
Well, there's plenty of time. The problem with the Raiders, as I've been saying throughout the course of this game, is when they've got down to attacking area, they haven't had the options, they haven't had their angle runners, just prepared to go laterally, and they're not really challenging or put any real questions to this Roosters defence.
Very slow to his feet there, playing the ball, Joe Picker. It's now approaching 100 minutes since the Raiders have scored. That ball was a mile forward from Trevor Thurling. The referee said no. Well, that was further forward than the disallowed try for the Roosters in the first half. Herbert. Now Campese under pressure on the last tackle, gets away from Mason, straightens, now links here, the pass from Harrison to Carney, steps away from the touchline, keeps it alive to Herbert, still the last tackle, Herbert is kicking for Monahan, but back there to tidy up the Roosters, captain Braithen Aston loses the ball, Monahan has come up with it, the referee's blown the whistle.
I called it.
And it'll be a Canberra loosened feed and Astor's lost possession.
Well, the tackle was completed. The referee called held, and that's the reason why the ball was out of play. So it'll be a knock-on feed to the Raiders, but that came out of nothing. Campese looked as though he was going to get shut down with the kick, managed to find some space. Herbert puts a well-weighted kick in, and the Raiders almost come up with a try.
Blood bin for Joe Picker.
So, and that's to there. The tackle's completed. Referee calls held. And the ball spills out after the referee called held. And Monahan claims a try.
Tackle clearly completed. Once the player on the ground has a hand placed upon him, that's the tackle. And the Canberra Raiders fans here don't like it after watching the replay on the big screen, but the referee is correct here, but we're back to the play, and can they score here, Canberra? Jared Croker plays it 10 out from the line on debut. Now here's Turner. Across field looking for runners. Back to Tongue. He goes straight ahead. Alan Tongue, the skipper, can he spark them? He's only a metre away from the line. Turner's at acting half. They've had their chances, Canberra. They haven't been able to score. Campese now to Herbert. Gets past Mason, but can't get away from the second line of defence. That being Nate Miles. Campese. Thurling, 5 metres away from the line. Tongue at acting half. Campese's to the left. They go to the right. Short ball. Picker almost reaches out. He's only half a ball length away from the goal line, you'd think. Last tackle. Tongue. Herbert. Long cutout ball. Monahan pushes away from Orbison. It goes back to Harrison. That's the last tackle. He's lost it. Ball on the ground. The Roosters have come up with it. Well, they've survived again. It is over 40 tackles inside the opposition 20 for Canberra without a try. It's now over 100 minutes without a try.
Yeah, and you can see them just lacking that confidence. They're looking around, virtually looking around now, looking at who's going to create options, because they just are moving the ball laterally and hoping that someone, whoever's going to get the ball, is going to make a break. It's not going to work like that against this Roosters outfit, who are still keen, enthusiastic in defence and moving up quickly off the line.
Last here for the Roosters, and they've got down to within about 35 of the Canberra line, and Astor just kicking for the touchline to try and slow the clock down and give the boys, as Mitchell Pearce claps the hand, some time to regather, regroup. And Braithen Astor still being troubled, I think, by that collision with the upright as we head down to the touchline. Stuart Raper.
Well, the introduction of 2 referees, everyone thought was going to speed the play up and would result in more tries. What could be further from the truth today? So a great defensive effort by this Roosters outfit. As we've said all day, they've been enthusiastic and they're cutting down the options of both Campese and Herbert, and they're struggling with options when they get up to that try line.
Both sides taking the opportunity to have some refreshments here and taking their time to get to the scrum.
And no Glenn Buttress also is a blow to their creativity and around the rucks. I think that's going to stifle them, or it is obviously stifling them in this second half as well.
Another penalty to Canberra inside their own 20 to get them down the other end. It's at about 8 or 9 through the penalty count. It's become a bit of an issue, if it wasn't already, for the Roosters. In fact, they're just gifting the Raiders possession and field position. Luckily, the defence is held out, and the Raiders haven't been able to make them pay out. The back, Shillington with a one-handed flick, and Mitchell Pearce with the interception.
And there was no need for that. Obviously, they realised that the second phase options, their best option of cracking this Roosters lineup, because moving the ball wide is not coming up with any result. The second phase is causing problems, but they're just going a little bit overboard now, trying to pop it at almost every opportunity.
Tom Leroy-Lars is back out for the Raiders. That's their 8th interchange. But the Roosters have an opportunity here, you'd think, to seal the game. They lead by 10. O'Mealy. If the Raiders can't hold here, the Roosters will pick up their first win. Pearce with a cross-field kick. Monahan is there. It's over the touching goal line on the full 20-metre restart.
Yeah, the idea was right. Kenny Dowell is very good under the high ball. Freddie Fittler there, be a lot more confident now, given the fact that, or the way that the Roosters have continued on in this second half, because traditionally the Roosters have wilted at half-time. I would say most of the games last year, they fell away in that second half. But here today, the Roosters have gone up another level and really are putting the pressure, putting the acid on the Raiders.
Well, Shackleton up very quickly there to put pressure on Leroy-Lars, and now Turner under pressure as well. Herbert. Now Harrison pops it there to Carney. Comes away from the touchline. 5 metres short of the halfway line. 14.5 minutes to go. Not long before the clock starts to become an enemy for Canberra either. Campese, long ball here to Croker. Over the halfway line. Out of one tackle. Last here for Canberra. What will their option be on this occasion? Campese kicking for the corner. Jones. Nice bounce for him. They're going to try and force an error here, the Raiders. There was nothing much about an attacking play there from Campese.
No, there was nothing that much doing, obviously playing for some field position. And Ben Jones, once again, easily ran it back into the field of play. He's been solid as Kenny Dowell makes a bust.
Right on the halfway line, he'll play it. Now here's Orbison out of acting half. He picks up 15, nearly 20 metres. A little bit too easy here for the Roosters. Couple of good back-to-back runs. Pearce. Here's Willie Mason now at them. Leroy-Lars is there. Tongue got a hand to it. The tackle count will restart. And Mitchell Pearce threw it to Ronnie Palmer. He thought it was a training drill there for a moment. And now picked up by Sedamata Sarr and Purtell. And zero tackle, says the referee. Miles. Bursts through Tongue but can't get away from Campese. Pearce. Now Anasta. And Nasta with the pass on the outside to Kenny Dowell, away from touch. Monahan there to wrap him up with Bronson Harrison. Anasta looking for runners. Pearce, Mason, inside Tongue. Good tackle on the inside by Shillington, brings him to ground. Now here's Mitchell Pearce stepping, strolling over, scores. That's the game. Surely now the Roosters will get their first win of the year. 14 points to nil with a kick to come, and it was thoroughly deserved as well. They've been the better side, and they now extend the lead to 14.
Here they've kept the pressure on. This Raiders outfit, they probed the left-hand side. They work back to this near side, and good combination here, Orbison and Pearce. Pearce sees a little bit of a gap on the inside. The Raiders defenders are very tired. They've had to work without two interchange players. Pearce sights a gap, good strong right foot step, and goes over that close to the line. No one's going to stop him. But you've got to point out the fact that this Raiders outfit down a couple of interchange players. And they've just really struggled to try and maintain the intensity with this Roosters outfit that has been a lot hungrier today than they were last week against South Sydney. And I think it's a just reward. This leads a just reward for probably their effort and their sustained enthusiasm through the course of this game.
With no Craig Fitzgibbon on the field, short Kenny Dowell is the man with the job of trying to extend this lead to 16. And when they haven't scored a try, the Canberra Raiders, for 108 minutes, you would think to score 16 in 12 will be beyond them.
They're looking tired. They're looking very flat indeed.
Kenny Dow does add the extra 2. And so the Roosters lead by 16 points to 0. Down to the touchline, Stuart Raper.
Well, when you have a tough week like the Roosters have had, being under adversity, you tend to gel, you tend to get tight. And that's what they've done, the Roosters. You can see the spirit in everything they're doing. The enthusiasm, the spirit has come from a very tough week of preparation. And they've got their just rewards from that by beating the Raiders today, or will beat the Raiders today.
Is this going to go out on the full? No, it lands just inside and tapped back there by Monahan. So the Raiders aren't done with yet. Maybe trailing by 16, and I'll throw it even more caution to the wind. And this could be dangerous for the Roosters if they score here. Maybe I've gone off a little bit too early, Wayne Pearce, as the ball is kept alive once again by Canberra. There's a dangerous position. The referee said no fine. Willie Mason the tackle there on Joe Picker. Slowish played the ball, 12 out from the line. More tackles inside the 20 here for Canberra. We're approaching 50 without a point here from Canberra. 50 tackles inside the opposition 20. Leroy Lars slipping in defence was Miles, but the cover was there. It was great from O'Mealy. A metre out from the line. Picker. Campese back to Herbert. Herbert to Tongue. He's got no one to pass to, so Herbert wraps around. And the defence is strong again from the Roosters. Last tackle here for Canberra. Campese puts the ball into the air. Too deep. Jones has it covered. 20-metre restart.
They're just not on today, and Terry Campese's not on with his kicking game as well. He came up with a couple of good 40-20s, but his attacking kicking game has left a bit to be desired today. But the Raiders, you talk about approaching 50, well, actually just around about 50 tackles in the opposition's, in the Roosters' 20-metre zone. They've also gone the best part of 110 minutes now without scoring a point. Back end 40 minutes last week and 70 minutes again today. So they've really struggled to just get over the opposition line. Struggle for creativity, in my opinion.
Move, hold, go.
Jones plays it. Here's Soliola. 30 metres away. A chance of going in here again, the Roosters, as Pearce puts the ball high in the air. Carney's taking his eyes off it. It's bounced. It's in trouble for him. It'll go with the dead ball. Didn't have to get it down. He's confident. Well, Justin Carney didn't want to play at the football, and he may have paid the ultimate price.
Yeah, it was a great kick because it's over into Justin Carney's eyes as the sun. The sun's beating down straight into Justin Carney's eyes, so it looked as though he lost the football in the sun. They're onside, not a problem with that. Plenty of elevation. Great kick there from Mitchell Pearce, but the chase from Sean Kenny-Dow putting pressure on. Braithen Astor too. Have a look at that. I tell you what, if he's got that down, that's a remarkable effort. He snuck around the back of Justin Carney, and does he get it down before the in-goal line? That's a try. That is a remarkable effort. We've seen some great athleticism from players over the past couple of years, Greg Inglis in particular, but that's a remarkable effort. Is his knee in? I think from the other angle, it looked as though his body was in.
We talk about separation now. His hand's on it there. His hand, that's a try.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. I think that is a try. And that is an absolutely remarkable effort from Braithen Astor. And the fact that at this such a late stage of the game to chase through so hard and put himself in a position to contest, great tick.
And there it is, the try to Braithen Astor. Remarkable try as well. And it sums up, I think, both teams' fortunes today.
Well, the enthusiasm that Braithen Astor showed in chasing that so late on a very, very hot day is typical of the performance of the Roosters today. They've been keen, they've been enthusiastic, and they've out-enthused the Raiders. Carney said, "Where did you come from?" He had no right to score that, but he got around him, somehow contorted his body, never gave up on the chase, and managed to control the football. That was a superb effort all round.
Remarkable stuff from the captain, Braithen Astor. It is now 20 points to 0. And here's a remarkable stat from Malcolm in the Middleton, our statistician Wayne Pearce. Canberra, who entered the competition in 1981, has never, ever, ever been held scoreless here in Canberra.
Well, it's
in
even
the history of the club. They haven't scored a try in games.
Well, it's even more remarkable when you consider how poorly the Roosters played last week.
And how potent Canberra's attack is today. It's not as if they weren't without their chances. 45 tackles and the opposition 20. Here's Fitzgibbon from touch to add a little bit of salt into the wounds from Craig Fitzgibbon, who has been outstanding today for the Roosters. 22 points to nil. What a turnaround from the Sydney Roosters, who were absolutely thumped last week, 52-12 by the Rabbitohs.
And we should point out that the Roosters have traditionally struggled to win down here. They haven't won down here in Canberra since 2004, yet they managed to turn their week around after that disastrous performance last week and come up with what has been a truly gritty and gutsy performance today. Technically, probably left a bit to be desired. They've come up with quite a few errors with the football. But given Anthony Minicello was taken from the field early on in this game, or relatively early on in this match, and Ben Jones has gone in there, back there for a fill-in, they've still been fairly creative.
Don't think they're done with yet either, the Roosters, as we still have 6 minutes of play remaining. And we approach 120 minutes since the Raiders have scored a point. Nasser at acting half. Here's Willie Mason. How pleased will he be, A, with the win, but B, to get back and get through this game?
Well, to get through this game with his input in such hot conditions has been a superb effort.
Here's Kenny Dowell. The ball went forward, says the referee. So that'll be a changeover. Yeah, they're playing with a lot more confidence, the Roosters, and why wouldn't they? 22-0.
Yeah, it's been they've done. I know that they've done a lot of soul searching through the week. They've confronted some pretty tough questions about their style of play and each other, and it's all come. The efforts come to fruition here today with a solid 80-minute effort. And you've got to point out it has been an 80-minute sustained effort to keep the Raiders scoreless down here. Is a superb effort. Great hit there, Willie Mason. He's still pumped.
Leroy Lars, the man, who really for the Raiders today is the only player that has looked threatening. And there's an intercept for Anasta. He'll race away and get a double. They're going to lead by 26, and the turnaround from the Roosters continues, and the captain scores again. The exclamation point for the Roosters, 26-0 with a kick to come. It's been awful for Canberra, but it's all sunshine for the Roosters.
Yeah, the Raiders have been, through the course of this match, trying to go laterally, trying to get around the outside of the Roosters. On this occasion, Herbert throws one. They had plenty of numbers out there, the Raiders, but Braith Anasta anticipated beautifully. He was up in the line. It wasn't on. They haven't, as I said, they've been trying to go laterally. Virtually that's been their default play here today. They haven't had the inside runners, they haven't had the angle runners, and Braith just plucked it out of the air and ran unopposed to the try line. And he's copped a fair bit of criticism, as have most of the Roosters over the past week, but he's really stepped back and bounced back to his best here today. Braith Anasta, he's been leading in the enthusiasm stakes, and as a good skipper should do.
He's trying his last 4 games against Canberra for Braith Anasta. He doesn't mind playing the Raiders. He's got 10 in 11 against the Raiders. There has been some terrific performances from the Roosters right across the park. Fitzgibbon, 34 tackles and 14 hit-ups, and Miles, 15 hit-ups for Nate Miles, and O'Mealy, 14 hit-ups. Craig Fitzgibbon, 2 from 3 today. Just to make it 3 from 4. It was 4-0 at half-time. 26-0, 3 minutes to go. And they've got some injury concerns too, the Canberra Raiders. Troy Thompson with a knee. Glenn Buttress hasn't played the second half after he was injured in the first. He's on crutches. As now the conversion attempt from Fitzgibbon is terrific again. 28-0. The one dark spot today for the Roosters has been the injury to Anthony Minicello. Serious looking ankle injury in the first half.
But it makes this win all the more attractive when you look at the fact that they lost Minicello, and Minicello is their #1 strike player. They lost him in that first half with that ankle injury. Yet, Ben Jones has stepped up to the mark at fullback, done a wonderful job. And the forwards in particular have laid a superb foundation for this Roosters effort here today. And the Roosters last week, through their forwards, based on their poor forward performance, were, as we know, were terrible.
20 out from their own line. Well, next week, the Raiders are away to Parramatta on Super Saturday, while the Roosters are at home to the West Tigers next Friday night. Here's Nuasala towards the halfway line, still going, still going, still going. Finally tackled about 8 metres into Raiders territory. Fitzgibbon, short ball to Pearce, couldn't handle it. And I don't think either side will be that desperate to get the scrum. So the Raiders, none from 2 to start season 2009. They can't afford a slow start.
Well, the concerning thing, and I made a couple of mentions of this through the call, is the fact that they didn't score in the second half against the Tigers either. So virtually gone a game and a half without scoring a point. And what that makes that appear even worse is the amount of opportunities they've had to score points in this match via the field position that they had deep down in the Roosters territory.
3 minutes into the game, Adrian Purtell, 10 out from the line with no one in front of him, dropped the ball cold. The pass he should have taken from Terry Campese. And since then, they haven't looked like it. They don't deserve to win today, but you sometimes wonder little things like that. If Canberra had scored from that 3 minutes into the game, it's a whole different game.
Well, what it does, it actually gives you a big boost mentally.
Here's Purtell into space. Can they get their first try of the afternoon? Can they get their first try in 2 hours? They play the ball 10 out from the line. Not at this stage. Time is running out. There's only 15 seconds to go. They've never been held to 0 in Canberra, the Canberra Raiders, and that record is going to be maintained because Harrison scores with 6 seconds remaining. Just under 2 hours since they last scored a point, and Canberra just miss out on being embarrassed to 0 for the first time ever in Canberra.
Yeah, it was off the back of a wonderful break by Adrian Purtell on their left-hand side attack. I thought that Ben Jones did well at fullback to shut it down. And then from the ensuing breaking play, the Roosters were just short on numbers. They had the numbers out there, the Raiders on the right-hand side. The Roosters were still regrouping. There were too many players, defensive players, in around the ruck after the break had been made. And in the end, Bronson Harrison, who sits on that right-hand side waiting for opportunities, comes up with the try virtually on the stroke of full time.
First try in Canberra colours for Bronson Harrison, and well, that's one positive for them. They haven't become the first ever Canberra side to be pointless in Canberra. And it's been 2 hours since they scored their last point. So something to work on from there. Look forward to next week against the Tigers. There's Campese to try and make it 28-6, but it's been a comprehensive performance by the Roosters, a remarkable turnaround. Campese has hooked that one, misses just to the left. And so full time here at Canberra Stadium. They were thumped 52-12 last week by South Sydney, and the Roosters have hit back with a comprehensive 28-4 win over the Canberra Raiders.